I had worked at Harper & Co. Marketing for almost 6 years. Every client, every campaign, every late night I spent at the office, I treated it like it was my own company. I loved what I did, and I believed my boss, Mr. Daniel Harper, recognized my dedication. But one Monday morning, everything changed. Daniel called me into his office, his expression unusually tight. "Sophie, we need to talk," he said. My heart sank. I had a bad feeling immediately. I'm letting you go," he said casually. "What?" I stammered. "Why? I've been meeting all targets. My clients are happy. This makes no sense." He leaned back in his chair and avoided my gaze. "It's just company restructuring. You know how it is." But deep down, I knew the truth. A week later, I saw the announcement on the company website. "Welcome our new marketing lead, Emily Carter." Emily, his girlfriend. I felt my stomach drop. The man I trusted, who I had given years of loyalty, had fired me so he could hire his girlfriend. I was furious, humiliated, and heartbroken. For days, I couldn't focus. I sat at home, staring at my laptop, thinking about what to do next. Every email from my former clients reminded me of my worth, my ideas, my dedication, my relationships. They didn't belong to Daniel, they belonged to me. Then slowly, a plan started forming in my mind. I wasn't going to beg for my job back. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. I was going to take everything I had worked for and turn it into something greater. I started making calls, reaching out to my professional contacts, quietly offering my services as an independent consultant. At first, some were skeptical. "Sophie, can you really handle this on your own?" they asked. "Yes," I said confidently, "and I'll show you why." Every client I reached out to remembered my dedication, my creativity, and my professionalism. Slowly, they began returning my calls, trusting me with their projects once again. It wasn't immediate. There were setbacks, doubts, and sleepless nights, but each small victory fueled my determination. I was no longer just Sophie the employee. I was Sophie the strategist, the innovator, the one who couldn't be held back by a selfish boss. By the end of the first month, I had a small but promising roster of clients who trusted me completely. And as I looked at the growing list of projects, one thought kept repeating in my mind. Daniel Harper thought he could dismiss me and control everything. He has no idea what's coming next. By the second month after leaving Harper & Co., I had officially registered my own company, Sophie Marketing Solutions. I didn't have a fancy office or a team yet, just a small apartment, my laptop, and a burning determination to prove Daniel wrong. I started small, taking one client at a time, but I made a promise to myself. Every project would be perfect. No shortcuts, no compromises. Each success would speak louder than any argument or resentment I might have toward Daniel. Word spread quickly. Clients began to recommend me to others, impressed by my creativity, dedication, and personal attention. Slowly, my roster expanded. I could feel the momentum building. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on Harper & Co. Daniel was arrogant and careless. He assumed that because Emily was his girlfriend, she could magically handle the clients I once nurtured. But she lacked experience and relationships. They had been built by me over years. One morning, I received an email from a former client, one of the largest accounts I had managed. They had been frustrated with Harper & Co. since Daniel fired me. "Sophie, we'd like to work with you again. Can we meet this week?" I smiled. This was it, the turning point. Over the next few weeks, I strategically scheduled meetings, pitched new ideas, and reminded each client why I had always been their trusted consultant. Slowly but surely, they began moving their accounts from Harper & Co. to me. Daniel noticed. I could see it in the office from the outside. He was stressed, pacing the floor, constantly calling clients, trying to patch things up. But it was too late.
By the third month, several of his biggest clients had officially signed contracts with Sophie Marketing Solutions. The best part? Daniel didn't know it was my plan all along. He thought they were leaving him for unrelated reasons. He didn't realize that his own arrogance and greed were driving them away. One afternoon, I received a message from Emily. "Sophie, how are you getting all these clients? You're hurting us." I didn't reply. I just smiled. This wasn't about hurting anyone. It was about taking back what I deserved. By the end of the fourth month, I had a small but powerful team of freelancers and consultants working under me. Projects were flourishing, clients were happy, and my confidence had never been higher. Daniel called me personally one day, trying to sound casual. "Sophie, I heard some of our clients are moving to your company. Can we talk?" I laughed quietly, sitting in my small office surrounded by evidence of my success. "Sure, Daniel, we can talk. But why don't you first tell me why you fired me in the first place?" There was silence on the line. Then he stammered, trying to come up with an excuse, but I didn't give him the satisfaction. I hung up. I had started with nothing but a plan, my skills, and my reputation. And now I was building an empire, quietly, strategically, and with Daniel Harper completely unaware that I was winning.
By the sixth month, Sophie Marketing Solutions was no longer just a small startup. It had become a serious competitor to Harper & Co. My clients were thriving, and word of my work had begun spreading across the city. Daniel could no longer ignore it. I had learned to stay calm and strategic. Every time I landed a new client that used to belong to him, I didn't gloat. I didn't brag. I simply did my job better than anyone else could. My work spoke for itself. One morning, I received an urgent email from a former Harper & Co. client. "Sophie, we're ready to move our entire account to you. We've lost faith in Harper & Co., and we trust your expertise completely." I grinned. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the chance to take the clients Daniel had relied on for years. The next week, I hosted a series of meetings with multiple clients, presenting fresh marketing strategies, innovative campaigns, and clear results. By the end of it, nearly all of Daniel's top accounts had signed with me. Meanwhile, Daniel's stress was becoming obvious. He called me more than once, trying to negotiate, offering bonuses, even threatening legal action. But I stayed calm. Every interaction reminded me of how foolish he had been to think firing me would make things easier for him. Then came the call I had been waiting for. "Sophie, can we meet? I need your advice on a project," Daniel said, his voice shaky. I paused before replying. "Sure, Daniel. I'd be happy to advise, if you promise to be honest this time." When we met, I could see the fear in his eyes. The man who once controlled the office now looked desperate, uncertain, and weak. "Sophie, I don't understand how this is happening. You're taking all our clients. How are you doing this?" I smiled politely. "Daniel, I didn't take anything that wasn't already mine. I nurtured those relationships, worked hard for them, and earned their trust. You just didn't value me enough to see it." He didn't reply. He knew I was right. Over the next few weeks, Daniel tried everything: discounts, meetings, even personal apologies. But it was too late. His arrogance had cost him everything. My company had become the new standard for excellence in our field, and clients preferred working with someone who truly cared about them. One afternoon, Emily, his girlfriend, called herself. "Sophie, please, can we talk? Daniel says we need to fix this." I laughed quietly. "Emily, I don't need to talk. I've been doing just fine without you or him." By now, Daniel was completely desperate. I started receiving messages from him asking for a job at my company, pleading for me to hire him in some capacity. The man who fired me, the man who underestimated me, was now begging me for work, and I didn't even need to reply. I had achieved everything silently, strategically, and without losing my dignity. I had turned my betrayal into triumph.
By the 8th month, Sophie Marketing Solutions had grown beyond what I ever imagined. My small apartment-turned-office was now buzzing with a team of talented freelancers and full-time employees. Each project was flourishing, and every client I worked with trusted me completely. Daniel, on the other hand, was unraveling. Harper & Co., once a respected firm, was struggling. Clients he had taken for granted now chose me without hesitation. I could see the panic in his emails, the desperation in his phone calls. He had spent years thinking he was untouchable, and now he was witnessing the consequences of his arrogance. One morning, I received a call from an old client who had just finalized a major contract with me. "Sophie, we just want to thank you. You've transformed our business." Hearing this, I felt a wave of satisfaction, not from revenge, but from knowing my work and integrity had won. Meanwhile, Daniel made a last-ditch effort to regain control. He scheduled a meeting with me, trying to negotiate. "Sophie, please, we can collaborate. I can offer you a position, equity, anything," he pleaded. I took a deep breath and smiled softly. "Daniel, I don't need anything from you. In fact, I think it's time you consider learning from your mistakes." His face fell. He realized that the tables had completely turned. The clients he thought were loyal had followed competence, dedication, and honesty, all qualities I had embodied. His desperation was clear, his pride shattered. Even Emily, his girlfriend, tried contacting me, asking how I had gained such influence so quickly. I simply replied, "Hard work and integrity go a long way." By the end of the year, my company had not only taken over Daniel's top clients, but had also established a reputation as one of the most reliable and creative marketing firms in the city. Harper & Co. continued to dwindle, a shadow of its former self. Walking through my office, seeing my team busy, productive, and happy, I realized something important. Revenge doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes the quiet rise of someone who refuses to give up is the most satisfying. And Daniel Harper, he had been taught the most powerful lesson of all. Underestimating people and misusing trust comes with consequences. The betrayal had once crushed me, but my response had rebuilt me into someone unstoppable.
It had been over a year since I was fired from Harper & Co., and life had changed completely. Sophie Marketing Solutions was thriving. I had a dedicated team, loyal clients, and the kind of respect that money or titles could never buy. Every time I looked back, I felt proud, not for revenge itself, but for proving to myself that I could rise above betrayal. Daniel Harper's calls had stopped. He had tried everything, pleading, negotiating, offering money, even begging for a job, but I had ignored them all. His company had lost most of its clients, and employees were leaving in droves. I had learned through every small victory that success was the best revenge, and it had been sweeter than I imagined. One afternoon, I received an email marked urgent from a mutual industry contact. It was from Daniel. "Sophie, I admit defeat. Harper & Co. is collapsing. I don't know what to do anymore." I smiled quietly, sipping my coffee. There was no anger in me anymore, only peace. I didn't need to rub it in. Life had already done that for me. That evening, I walked through my office, watching my team collaborate and laugh. These were people who trusted me, believed in me, and had grown alongside me. I realized that this was my real victory, creating something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. Later that week, I attended a business networking event. One of my former Harper & Co. clients came up to me, shaking my hand. "Sophie, you've completely transformed everything. We should have recognized your talent years ago." I smiled. Better late than never. As I walked away, I realized something profound. Betrayal had once felt like the end of the world, but it had been the beginning of something far greater. I had learned to trust myself, value my own skills, and never let anyone else define my worth. And Daniel? He had learned a lesson too, one I never had to teach. Underestimating someone's determination, intelligence, and integrity comes with consequences. That night, I closed my laptop and looked out the window at the city lights. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. The past was behind me. The betrayal was just a memory, and my future was mine to shape. I whispered quietly to myself, "Thank you, Daniel, for showing me what I'm really capable of." With that, I turned off the lights and walked into a future filled with possibility, success, and peace.
After the chaos of Daniel Harper's downfall, I thought my journey was over. But life had more lessons to teach me. Betrayal had sparked my rise, but success was no longer about revenge. It was about building something meaningful, something that could last. I started mentoring young professionals in marketing. Many of them reminded me of myself when I first started, full of talent, but hesitant to trust themselves. I shared my story openly, not to brag, but to show them that setbacks and betrayals can be stepping stones to greater achievements. Every week, I would host small workshops, teach clients and aspiring entrepreneurs, and even take on interns. Watching them grow, I realized something crucial. Success feels sweeter when it empowers others. At the same time, I invested in personal development, reading books, attending seminars, learning about leadership and business management. I wanted to be unshakable, not just in business, but in life. The betrayal that once hurt me became a reminder: never depend on others to define your value. I also began writing a blog, sharing lessons I learned from the experience. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Work quietly and consistently. Results always speak louder than words. Turn pain into purpose. Every setback is an opportunity to grow. Respect builds loyalty. People may betray you, but genuine respect and hard work always pay off. Months passed, and my company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But more importantly, I was thriving as a person. I had learned resilience, patience, and strategic thinking. I had learned that revenge might be satisfying, but self-growth is liberating. One afternoon, I received a message from a young girl who had attended one of my workshops. "Sophie, your story gave me courage to leave a toxic job. I just landed my dream role." Reading that, I felt a surge of pride stronger than any revenge could give me. This was real power, helping others rise while standing tall yourself. By now, Daniel Harper had completely disappeared from the industry. His attempts to recover were futile, and his former clients were permanently loyal to me. But I no longer celebrated his downfall. My focus had shifted to building a legacy that could inspire others. I realized something profound. Betrayal may ignite a fire, but purpose keeps it burning. The woman who was once fired, humiliated, and underestimated was now confident, independent, and unstoppable. And this time, my story wasn't about someone else. It was about me. Sitting at my desk one evening, I looked around at the office filled with bright, eager faces, and I whispered to myself, "This is just the beginning. The real victory is growth, and that can never be taken away."